We actually went in to Iwo Jima and was there. I was there when the flag, every time you see that flag, it brought on a different kind of meaning. So when you saw the flag up, you knew that they had conquered the island, so that once they put that flag up, that was a signal to the troop that that was secured and you no longer had to fear the being attacked. There is no place for you to hide with the Marine Corps at invasion. Whether you go in D+1 or D+10, they need you. But it was a wonderful, nasty black sand, just as black as that chair. And by the first 4 days with the body parts and the bodies, flies were big, and it was a stink that you never would forget.
So I'm working down the litters to make sure everything is going the way it's supposed to be going, making sure we're on the ones that are the worst and so on and so forth. And I came across this red-headed young man with freckles, and he was laying there with his eyes shut, and he had both legs gone, one from knee down and one from thigh down. And I'm starting the IV, and he looked up at me with these blue eyes, and he said, "Are my feet gone?" And I said, "Yes, they are." He said, "I'm only 16. And he said, "My mother and father don't know I'm here." And I said, "Well," I said, "they're soon gonna know you're here." I said, "But I'll tell you what, why don't you write a letter?" And I pulled over one of the Red Cross gals. I said, "He wants to write a letter to his mother and father." I said, "Write it now and get it to his mother and father." I said, "He's going to be okay. He's going to Japan. He will make it. But the rehab, his rehabilitation starts in this triage here, in that triage here."
With the truth.
And here he was, 16 years old. That was the worst day. That was my worst day.
Well, in the chaplain's office, I had to write the letters to the parents of sailors who died. And you see, at that point, we were getting the patients from Balboa Hospital in San Diego, and they were all coming from the Philippines. And so they were burn cases, and because they were all in cases that they'd never be able to fight again. So I always said we saw the worst of war, and I don't wish that on anybody.
So one time we were on a mission like that, and my guns jammed. At that exact instant that I was doing that, my electrically heated suit shorted out in the groin. I called out, I said, "I'm on fire, I'm on fire," several times. The pilot said, "Shut up and keep shooting." And so I shut up and kept shooting. Well, hey, when you're getting shot at by German fighters, nothing can stop you trying to defend yourself, because the consequences that if you don't are rather severe.
And when we got to San Francisco, the fog was so thick you couldn't see. And we knew we were home, but we wanted to see something, you know. And that ship was moving along, and finally the captain from North Carolina came on with that southern accent and said, "Look up, man, look up." And we all looked, we were right underneath it, and all the men burst out crying. I don't think there was anybody that wasn't shedding tears under that bridge.
Even I haven't been born and raised all of my life in the South, other than just going to New York or Washington to visit relatives or something. It was traumatic to me. But here in Jacksonville, a country town with very few blacks and no, quote, black society, the bus drivers would always enforce segregation. You had to be in the back seat. So you formed two lines. which was unusual, you know, and hard to accept because I got on a uniform just like you. But usually about 4 or 5 blacks would get on the black back seat, and he would fill up the bus with the white troops. So that got to be a problem, especially with those of us who had then moved up where we had began to replace the special service troops and we were becoming NCOs ourselves. We had to deal with a fact that here's a youngster who goes on leave, but he comes back AWOL, and it's not his fault because we had experienced firsthand that you just couldn't get the bus.
So in March, he noticed, looking at his Jewish calendar, that Passover was early that year. My brother Howard contacted General Collins and told him that it would be great if somehow they could make arrangements for a Seder. General Collins liked the idea. So he made arrangements for trucks to go to France, bring in French wine, chickens. So here we had this Seder. They sent orders to units all around. We had about close to 1,500 soldiers in attendance. And of course the best part was they had German civilians prepare the food. They served us. They cleaned up everything. So that was a vivid memory.
You know, I think the main thing I would say is how proud I am to be a part of the National Guard. To me, there's not a more patriotic person in the world who can say, I'll do that on the side, and then if something significant happens, you count on me. But, you know, until then, I'm gonna be doing this. I'm gonna be teaching. I'm gonna raise my family. I'm gonna be a football coach, a softball coach. I'm gonna go to ballet. But when it's time to go, you can count on me.
M. McNair, she sends me a card on Veterans Day every year. Just today I was writing her Christmas card, and I said again in there how I appreciated those Veterans Day cards. She's the only one that does that.